All right, we're going to go over just a short introduction to decimals, and that's going to be our next unit. And so I wanted to go ahead and, remind you of this place value chart that we've had up all year. And this will help you with the place value with decimals if you have a place value question. And all numbers have a decimal. If you don't see the decimal, that just means that it's at the back of the number. So like if I had the number 20, the decimal point, if it's at the back and there's not anything after it, we don't have to write a decimal point. So on this place value chart, after the decimal point, I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and then 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and then it just keeps going. So in 5th grade, we're mainly going to work with decimals that go up to the thousandths place. So that would be considered 3 digits after the decimal point. And we're going to focus on reading decimals, how we would read them today, how we would write them in some different forms. And then if we have time, we're also going to look at comparing decimals. So whenever you read decimals, with this one right here, I have 64.5. So instead of saying 64.5, what I do when I have a decimal point, I say the word and. So this is going to be 64 and then I just say whatever the number is after it. So 64 and 5. And then the last part that I do whenever I'm reading a decimal number is I say what place value that last digit is in. So because this one is right after the decimal point, it's in the tenths place. So I'm going to say 64 and 5/10. Now with this next number, I've got 64, then I've got my decimal point, so I'm going to say and then I'm just going to read the number like I normally would without a decimal point, so 51. But because now the last digit is in the hundredths place, I'm going to say 51 hundredths. So 64 and 51 hundredths. And then on this last one here, I've got 64 and then I would just read this 516. And the last digit is in the thousandths place because I've got 3 digits after the decimal point. So I'd say 516 thousandths. So that's the way that we read decimals. So whatever place value the last digit is in, you will say that place value. So since this one stopped at hundredths, I said 51 hundredths. This one stopped at thousandths, so I said 516 thousandths. So notice I said 516 just like I would if there weren't a decimal point. So the way that we know that it has a decimal and it's after a decimal, I have to be sure to say thousandths at the end. And all of these, after a decimal point have the THS on the end. So now we're going to look at how we could write this in expanded form. And standard form is just the number that we have here. So we also have word form. So if I were to write this out in words, if I wrote out 64 and 5/10 and wrote that in words, that would be word form. But standard form is just this that we have right here. It's the number form. So expanded form is whenever we break it apart. And I know, last year you did expanded form with whole numbers. So this is real similar. We're just going to break it apart by place value. So since the 6 is in the tens place, I'm going to say 6 times 10. And then the 4 is in the ones place, so I'm going to say plus 4 times 1. And then now that we get to the decimal point, I'm going to say plus 5 times, because it's in the tenths place, I'm going to write tenths as 0.1. That represents tenths. Now I'm just going to go ahead and move on to this next part. And actually, I'll just use this last number so that we'll have all 3 place values. So it's going to be plus 1 times, it's in the hundredths place, so it's 0.01. And then we've got plus 6 times 1,000th, which is 0.001. So it shows the thousandths place. We can also write this as fractions. And so on another video, I'll show you how to do that with fractions, and then we'll also save the comparing for another video.